Hey everyone, this is HD. Welcome back. It's time to begin the next series of games in the HD World Tournament, and we are currently in the round of 8. I just want to make a side announcement real quick. As you guys all know, I am starting to do the IPL as well with Pain User, and a lot of those games are going to be going up on my YouTube channel at the same time as the HD World Tournament finishes up. And I want to clear up any confusion out there, because I know a lot of people were like, wait, does this mean you stopped casting HDWT and you're only going to do IPL? No, that's not the case. I'm going to actually be doing multiple tournaments at the same time. And of course, we'll be returning to our regular programming of exhibition games as well. I know I haven't done any in quite some time, and a lot of good ones have come out in the months that I've been casting these tournaments. So I don't want to neglect that. I do want to continue casting those games for you guys. But before that happens, I want to talk about this game and this series of games. It is Incontrol versus Dimaga. And once again, it is in the round of 8 of the HD World Tournament. It is a best of 3 series. As always, the starting map in the round of 8 will be on this one, which is known as Terminus. Very, very big open map. And let's talk a little bit about the players and how they got here. Incontrol defeating Zelnik in a 2-1 series, so he was actually the only person in the round of 8, comparing to his round of 8 counterparts, that actually had a little bit difficulty advancing forward. He did drop one game. Interestingly enough, all of his counterparts getting 2-0 sweeps to get to where they are today. So Incontrol is the one who, I guess you could say, has a little bit of a shaky start to this tournament, but he was able to defeat Zelnik, who is a very solid Zerg player. He is facing up against, yet again, another Zerg, but this time it is the likes of Dimaga, who is an extremely talented Zerg player coming from Europe. And Dimaga was actually able to take out QXC, who is a very good American Terran player, and he was able to defeat him in a 2-0 sweep. So we'll see how this game plays out. Once again, this is on Terminus, very wide open map. Looks like Incontrol will be starting off with a little bit of interesting antics here, throwing up a pylon at the ramp of the Zerg. Now, some strategies that Protoss players can employ is blocking the ramp, but that's not possible because of the supply depot that's placed here on Terminus. So I'm really interested why Incontrol decided to throw a pylon here. It seems like he's going to try to throw a cannon. Yeah, here comes the cannon. Oh wow, he is actually going to try to cannon in the natural expansion of Dimaga. Very interesting here by Incontrol, and Dimaga now pulling all the drones off the line, has enough drones to kill off and actually force a cancel by Incontrol. Incontrol now canceling all of his pylons, will most likely cancel this one. Close one right there, almost didn't get to cancel it in time. But he kills off all the pylons, one pylon still hidden in the back, but Dimaga already on top of that, getting all of his drones over there to deflect the probe and make sure that no cannons can go up. And that's actually great, well played by Dimaga. Now, the thing about Incontrol here is he opened up with the Forge first. He had the option, actually, of going with this cannon opening, and it doesn't really hurt the Protoss player that much as long as you're able to cancel all your buildings, and Incontrol was. He was able to cancel all his pylons. He canceled all his buildings. Dimaga lost some mining time by pulling drones off the mineral line. So in all, I think both these players came out on, ahead in that exchange pretty much even. Neither player comes out ahead, neither player really comes out behind. It would have been a different story if the cannons had gone up, but that was not the case. Now Incontrol has fallen back to a Nexus, and he can do that by opening up with this Forge first. It's a very popular opening on maps where you can fast expand easily. So, well played by both these players. Good aggression by Incontrol and good defense by Dimaga. And now the game really going to kind of reset into a standard mode, as Incontrol will now be throwing up his Nexus behind his Forge, and he also has a second gateway, one gateway, and a Cybernetics core on the way. Now, one option that Dimaga can exercise, he has the option, is he can try to bust down this early expansion by the Protoss. Now, this is going to be very difficult to do, obviously, but Dimaga has the option of doing that. Now that he's got 2 bases, he could possibly try to go for some crazy Baneling bust. He could try to go for a Roach all-in, but based on Dimaga's style, he's a very macro-oriented player, as we saw him play against QXC in the round of 16. I don't think that's going to be the case, and you guys can see now Dimaga is going to grab a third. He's going to play macro style. And In Control right now is just going to go for a Stargate. As you guys can see, he's actually going to try to take to the skies. Very interesting. He might go straight into Void Ray play, maybe mix it up with a little bit of Phoenix harass as well. He does not have the geysers at his natural, though. So he is going to be able to pump out maybe one Void Ray. And then I see him transitioning into more of a ground-based play. As you guys can see, he's got Warp Gate on the way. So if this is not going to be some kind of an all Stargate build, he is going to plan to throw down more gateways as soon as his Warp Gate is nears its completion on research. And I think what we're going to see from In Control is some kind of preliminary Protoss Death Ball build. He's going to start to build up some Void Rays, get some ground troops, and he's going to get a nice mix and match of units. But he needs to be careful. He doesn't want to allow Dimaga to really run away with these expansions. Dimaga right now does have one over the Protoss, but if Dimaga is allowed to grab a fourth, which I do expect Dimaga to get relatively soon, then that's when Dimaga is going to start to get a lot more economy than In Control, and In Control is going to have to be really, really careful. He also has a pylon up here at the top. I like that play by In Control. Just as a Protoss player, you want to make sure you have pylons all over the map. You want to make sure you have good coverage, and you're able to warp in units when necessary. Now, we do see +1 weapons on the way as well. Hold that thought. Probe coming in here into a wall of a Spine Crawler and a Queen, just to confirm that didn't really get to see much, actually. So doesn't get much scouting duty whatsoever, but back at home, In Control is getting +1 weapons. He is going to transition into a ground-based build after this early Void Ray, and he is grabbing a third Nexus as well. So well played by In Control, and it's going to come down to how much damage he can do here with this Void Ray. I don't think he's going to try to kill off any drones or anything like that. He's just going to try to pick off Overlords and maybe pick off the random Queen that may be here or there. And it looks like he's going to encounter 2 Queens here. Now with the Phoenix, he can Graviton Beam one of these Queens up, which he proceeds to do, and this Queen will most likely die to the Void Ray. Now, with the Void Ray fully charged, it does have the option of killing this Queen as well. Dimaga, realizing that, has to fall back to a third Queen at the natural. Very nice harassment by In Control, and this is what Protoss players can really do. If you've got a Void Ray and a couple Phoenixes, you can easily harass the unsuspecting Zerg. Dimaga never scouted this Stargate inside the Protoss base. He really never had an Overlord to come in to check the Stargate or its positioning, but nonetheless, he gets a kill off on the Void Ray. Nicely well done by Dimaga, getting that Void Ray at the very last possible second as it was running away, and a little bit of a mishap by In Control. Honestly, I wasn't expecting In Control to lose the Void Ray so carelessly, but as a result now, he does not have the firepower he needs. You know, if you're going to go for a Protoss Death Ball build, you eventually need those Void Rays. You don't want to lose those early ones, and so losing that Void Ray certainly hurts. Now Dimaga is transitioning into getting 10 Mutalisks, so that is certainly very interesting. I mean, right now, Dimaga knows that In Control has Phoenixes on the map, so is going Mutas really the best idea right here? Those Phoenixes obviously the best counter to Mutalisks. They can run, they can shoot. Mutalisks unfortunately never able to catch up to them, and they're In Control kind of displaying a prime example of why Mutas aren't that great against Phoenix. Maybe though, Dimaga is just being a little stubborn-headed. He has, I mean, obviously he has 3 bases. He's grabbing a 4th right now, and you can outpower Phoenixes if you have a ton of Mutas, but you need a lot of Mutas. Now, Dimaga does have the economy to pump a ton, but it's gonna be a tough battle defeating these Phoenixes, especially once they get around to 5 or 6 in number. They are very potent against these Mutas, and they're In Control, showing why Phoenixes are so good. Dimaga, though, not really caring, is still gonna harass this Protoss third, doing some pretty good damage here. Now some Stalkers coming in from the back. Like I said, In Control eventually gonna transition into those gateway units, and these Mutas are just getting slaughtered by the Phoenix. In Control there, even though he doesn't have any weapons upgrades on those paper flyers. I like to call them the paper flyers. Neither does Dimaga, though. Even though no upgrades, those Phoenix just absolutely overpowering those Mutas at every stop and turn, even picking up a Zergling here to kill off the Scouter. And these Phoenix are just doing great work right now for In Control. Nice opening so far, and I think if we pull up the income tab, In Control still neck and neck with Dimaga. Neither player really ahead, but I gotta say that with Dimaga going for these Mutas and not really doing the damage he needs to do, it's just not working out for Dimaga, and Dimaga eventually is going to need to transition into something else. Now he's thrusting his Mutas headlong into the Protoss third once again. Doesn't get a single kill, or at least doesn't get enough to justify the cost of losing about 3 or 4 more Mutalisks. And as time goes on, it just looks like he's kind of just bumping into this brick wall of Phoenixes, and it's just not working out as he planned. Now, the nice thing, though, is Dimaga is grabbing a 5th expansion. So, you know, maybe his strategy here is... Nice little creep spread right here. Maybe his strategy here is just continually pump these mutas, constantly attack, and trade with the Protoss, make Incontrol produce more and more Phoenix, and Incontrol is making Phoenixes, as you guys can see, out of 1 Stargate. And eventually, Dimaga's economy, even though he's just trading armies, eventually Dimaga's economy will be stronger than Incontrol. So perhaps that's his strategy here, and I have to say, it isn't working out too. It isn't working out too badly. Dimaga has about 2 more bases than Incontrol does. He can afford the mismatch of mutas versus Phoenixes. He's now saturating the 5th base. And he's keeping Incontrol contained inside his base. This is the primary thing. Incontrol is not able to move out. He's not able to harass the Zerg. The Phoenixes are constantly being used for defensive purposes. And really, that's bad for Incontrol. And a little bit of mismanagement there by Incontrol once again leads to one of his Protoss air flyers going down from the sky. And a nice play so far from both these players. But I really think Dimaga may be taking control of this game slowly but steadily. And he does now have Infestation Pit down, so perhaps we're going to see Hive in the next couple of moments. We do have ground weapons and Carapace being researched, so I think right now Dimaga is sticking to Muta Ling, but he will eventually most likely go to Ultralisk. We do have Hive on the way now. As you guys all recall, Ultras do share the upgrades with Zerglings, and so that makes them a very powerful combination, Ultra Ling, against Protoss, against most Protoss units, except maybe, I guess, the Void Ray. And here we go once again, Dimaga coming in from the northern side, picking off a couple of these Stalkers, but eventually I feel like these Mutalisks, their usefulness is going to expire. Eventually, the Protoss player in control is going to have a maxed out army. Right now it is 160 under 200, so it's nearing max, and once in control nears max, he is going to push out, and once again, doing some damage to these Phoenixes, to these Mutalisks, picking them off, doing really good damage right here. Saving most of his Protoss forces, keeping them alive. And yeah, I think eventually we're gonna have Incontrol pushing out, but the question now is, has Dimaga become too great of a force? Has he massed up too big of an army? We're about to see. He's surrounding with the Zerglings here. Really great surround. Not enough sentries to lay down the force fields to protect the Stalkers, and it looks like these Speedlings may be able to kill off the entire Protoss death ball. Oh wow, gonna pick off the last of the anti-air, the Mutas do, and now the Mutalisks can pick off the rest of the ground forces. Really nicely well played right there by Dimaga. And that's exactly what I was talking about. If Dimaga can just keep the Protoss player contained with these Mutalisks, he doesn't necessarily need to do damage. He just needs to keep Incontrol inside his base. And once Incontrol does push out, Dimaga will have such a booming economy compared to Incontrol that he will just be able to surround, trade, and rebuild in almost seconds. In fact, we now have a ton of Zerglings coming out once again. As you guys can see, Dimaga just flooding the middle of the map. One observer there is definitely whatever information it's reporting back to Incontrol, the High Commander. It is not welcome. Incontrol cannot be happy about seeing this big flock of Mutalisks, which has basically regenerated itself from the hives, and the huge amount of Zerglings. Now, what kind of composition can Incontrol do to deal with this? I think he needs to stick with the Phoenixes and Colossus. I think Phoenix Colossus right now is the best option he's got, and stick with a ground fodder army of Zealots. I don't know about the Stalkers, simply because the Zerglings are so fast and so nimble, they can defeat the Stalkers so quickly and so easily. I really think going with Phoenix Colossus right now would be the best combination for Incontrol. But the hard thing here is because he's only on 2 bases, essentially, he's mined out of his main, he's gonna have a hard time funding that kind of gas-heavy army. So, really, the stakes are in Incontrol to move out and grab a third, and he needs to do it now. He needs to push out before Dimaga just becomes impossible to defeat. It looks like he's thinking right now, yeah, I have to move out, I have to make something happen, but Incontrol almost like he's scared here. He just doesn't want to commit his forces outside of his main where they are vulnerable to those Speedlings, and I guess you can't really blame him for that. But man, the longer this goes on, the further ahead Dimaga gets. If we just look at the top side, he has 1 more base, 2 more bases going up. Dimaga able to play the play style he loves, which is just macro Zerg, and now he's actually running in unopposed into one of these expansions, is gonna pick off every single defense, gonna kill off a ton of probes, and Incontrol says, screw it, man. I just cannot waste time defending anymore. I have to push out. Now Incontrol is thinking, maybe I have to fall back and defend. So it almost seems like he's indecisive here. He was actually falling back to save one of his Colossus, which I like, I guess. But now that he's saved it, you gotta push out, man. Forget this Nexus. It's done. It's over. You need to push and you need to make something happen. If anything, just use the Phoenix to deal with the Mutalisk and push out with your Colossus ball. Wow, losing a Colossus right there. Dimaga actually trading and sacrificing all of his Mutalisk to whittle down what Colossus he can. And I like that because now almost certainly no more Mutas in production. It is purely Ultras being made. So basically Dimaga sacking his army supply and has now transitioned into the very powerful late game combination of Ultralisks and Zerglings. And that is one of the most deadliest combos the Zerg player can field, especially now that there's really no Void Rays. There hasn't been a single one since the first one fell down in the opening moments of this game. It's just some Phoenix, and Ultras laugh against Phoenixes. I mean, the Phoenix just, the gravity beam obviously not strong enough to lift up an obese entity as the Ultralisks. So really, these Ultras and Lings I think are just going to be able to mow down this Protoss ball, and even if they don't, Dimaga can just rebuild so easily. Now, Incontrol is getting a Dark Shrine. I like that. And he's grabbing his Nexus, finally grabbing another base. So he is thinking about, he's thinking about going to the late game with this. He knows if he can get some Dark Templar harass, he's going to be in a decent position, but he needs to hold on to this Nexus. He's actually left it open and vulnerable to the Zerglings and Ultras, and the Nexus is then forced to cancel. Now, even if Incontrol survives this battle, his fourth Nexus has been delayed by so much that the macro is just not in favor of him. It looks like he will be able to survive. All the Lings have been absolutely shredded. Only the Ultralisk now remaining, and let's check these upgrades. 4-2. And the Ultras looks like they will fall down to this Colossus Stalker ball and the Zealots combined. But the nice thing is Dimaga able to deny the fourth Nexus. That is going to delay the economy of Incontrol that much more. I mean, if we count the economy of Dimaga, 1 base, 2 base, 3 base, 4 base, 5 base, 6 base. Obviously, I guess we can't count these two because they're not saturated yet. So just count these two right here. That is a ton of bases. Just looking at the map, Dimaga controls the whole world, and Incontrol controls like a little small country, a little island on the western edge of civilization, and it's just not going to work out too well for Incontrol in the long-term scheme of things, I don't think. Incontrol actually doing nice here though by killing off some of these infestors. Actually killed off every single one. Wow, that was definitely worth it. Really didn't lose a single Phoenix at all and was able to kill off all the infestors. That's a huge gas investment by Dimaga that has just been completely demolished. And now we do have Dark Templars coming out onto the field. So Incontrol is doing what he needs to do. He is being aggressive with his Phoenix, killing off the infestors, which, you know, Neural Parasite could have been disastrous for this Protoss ball, and Fungal Growth would have been disastrous as well. Now, I don't agree with Incontrol, though, going for Archons. Huh. I feel like he had all these DTs. Maybe he could have done some harass. A lot of these expansions to the north are vulnerable to, well, scratch that. 3 Spine Crawlers and a Spore. That is not going to be able to be penetrated by any DTs whatsoever. But Incontrol wisely using this pylon at the north that he placed a long time ago is going to bring in some Dark Templar, and this is what he needs to do to scratch himself back into this game, kill off as many drones as possible, and it looks like he's going to basically stop all mining there for now, but the situation's still very grim, very bleak. Incontrol now facing down the barrel of a massive Zerg army. The Corruptors say, you know what, I'm just going to run in here and kill off all the Colossus I can. And now the Ultras and Lings flooding in. The Archons getting overwhelmed. Everything getting just surrounded and getting molested by the Ultras and the Zerglings and the Corruptors, and this is almost certainly going to be GG. Incontrol now warping in desperation. Dark Templar, he actually has a ton of DTs here and no detection by Dimaga, which means these Ultralists will go down, but once again, the Nexus falls, and Incontrol realizing he just cannot win a long-term war of attrition when he's down 1 base and he really doesn't have much mining left to go. This is pretty much all the mineral stacks he had left. 400 minerals, 315, 220, 235. And realizing that basically every base on the map, besides the ones that Incontrol had, was already claimed by Dimaga. So that was not going to spell any kind of hope or any ray of victory for Incontrol. And Incontrol, realizing that, losing his Nexus, decides to GG out. So well played by Dimaga, showcasing how to play a macro style Zerg. And that was the first game in the round of 8 between Incontrol and Dimaga. That means we're going to have game 2 coming up next. I hope you guys enjoyed that game. And stay tuned, guys. Game 2 between Incontrol and Dimaga coming soon. HD signing out.